serious consequential decisions that were made in what we thought at the time was our coalition government of kind of liberals and conservatives. But their record speaks for itself. And at least 2 people in this race were part of defending those positions. And please do your research, because you have to understand that I really believe we need a conservative as leader of the Conservative Party of BC. Do you agree with me? I was saying the same things 5 years ago, 10 years ago, as I'm talking about here this evening or this afternoon. I'm not someone who you can pull up what they said 2 years ago and when they were defending DRIPA and defending SOGI and defending carbon tax. We have to be truthful with move forward. We also have to have clarity of vision, or else you get knocked off too easily, you know? If you're wishy-washy and you're not sure, it really doesn't work when we're at such a crucial point in our history. So on SOGI, just for a moment, it isn't part of our curriculum. It's in teachers' resources. So we have some teachers who never teach it, and we have other teachers who teach it every single day of the week. And we have a very militant teachers union that promotes that. Now they're going into queering outdoor education. I don't know what that has to do with going on a field trip and a hike and teaching kids about how wonderful it is to be in our outdoors, our God-given resources. This is not the place for that. And the age-inappropriate materials that are in our schools, here in Abbotsford, Chilliwack, Vancouver, Surrey, Delta, it doesn't matter where you're from, it's in all the schools. I had a coffee with Russ Hebert. Some of you may know Russ. He was the MP before me in South Surrey, White Rock, and he gave me a sheet of paper showing me some of the images from the books and then a list of all the schools these books were in. It's horrific, and it's confusing our children. We need to get back to the basics. Math, science, real history, not revisionist history. You know, those who ignore history are doomed to repeat it. We should understand the glory of our history and some of the bad mistakes we made. But this idea that we should all go around feeling like our ancestors were just terrible people, colonial oppressors, this is ideology gone mad. And this is not giving our children the confidence they need to face the competition of a very big and competitive world. I would like to see all our kids come out of school, whether they're going to the trades or they go on in school like I did. I would like to see them come out feeling, great, I'm Canadian, I'm confident, and I know what I'm talking about, and I'm going to go out there in the world and conquer it. What a wonderful feeling that is when you have that kind of confidence. Healthcare. You know, my husband's just gone through throat cancer. And all summer we were going to the cancer agency for his radiation and chemo treatments. It's a tough time when a family goes through that, because cancer is everywhere, every ethnicity, every age, men and women. It doesn't discriminate, right? And luckily in January he was told he was cancer-free. So God bless. But our daughter's also been through breast cancer. And the younger you are as a woman when you get breast cancer, usually the more aggressive it is. So she had a very aggressive kind. She's the mother of 2 children. She's got a job. She's a counselor and has had to go through surgeries and all that entails. And she's in a recovery period right now from her latest surgery. And the reason I mention that is because I have my own recent experience that when you get access to our healthcare, we have some excellent doctors and nurses, but access is an issue. And many people are lost waiting for that. And many people are being treated poorly. We got a call 3 nights ago from a family whose mother is dying. And they have her in a hallway at Langley Memorial, her end of life time is not in hospice care. It's not in a room. It's out in a hallway where there's no place to sit. I make me cry talking about it. No place to sit for her family that is gathered to say goodbye. That is inhumane. And it shouldn't be that way in our system. We should not have hospitals that say, we're open till 5, so I hope you don't break your leg at 7 p.m. because there'd be nobody here to take you in emergency. This is not the way to do it. We don't have enough equipment. This equipment is expensive. We have all these big fundraisers for all our hospitals. And we give and we try and support this. But our money in healthcare, and there's a lot of it, is going to at least 2 levels of bureaucracy that deliver no patient care at all. And COVID made it worse, somehow. Somehow we haven't fully recovered from that terrible time. So we have to bring efficiencies into government. You bring efficiencies, you can deliver better care, you can deliver better services. You have more money for that. I was Minister of National Revenue, and I apologize right now, I took your taxes for 2.5 years. I am sorry, I really am. But the good news is that when I was Minister of National Revenue, we had enough money to run this whole country, and under Stephen Harper, we lowered personal income tax. We lowered corporate income tax. We took the GST from 7% to 5%. We brought in income splitting for seniors, and we got back to a balanced budget and a surplus. Wouldn't that be nice? And we did that by having a focus on what we're doing. You cannot properly govern off the side of your desk. And if you're more concerned about your DEI programs and overreach in environmental regulations and rules, you're not paying attention to the delivery. You have to assess with every project, just like you do in business, you have to assess outcomes. We've got a program. We've frankly got the highest environmental standards in the world. You've got the program, assess the program. If it isn't working, scrap it or repurpose it. But you don't say, you know, it's not really working, so I think we'll put some more money in. That's not governance, that's recklessness. None of us can run our households that way. None of us can run our businesses that way. We got a budget a couple of weeks ago. I call it the no hope budget. Because instead of having a vision for the future, instead of saying, let's take where we're at, assess it, and understand we need to fix it because it's not delivering affordability for British Columbians, they said, yeah, we've overspent. Yes, we've spent recklessly. But you know, we have a solution. You know what that solution is? You will pay more taxes. That's not a hopeful vision for the future. We have, in year before last, we had over 70,000 British Columbians left our province, most of them under the age of 40. We're losing our best and brightest. We're losing investment because they're losing hope. This is a beautiful province. We all know that. Then why are people leaving it? Because can't afford to live here. And that is the government's fault. It is this NDP government's fault. They have now put us at $183 billion in climbing in debt, a deficit of $13.3 billion, a bloated bureaucracy, over 40% increase. This is not progress. Then when the taxes come in, they said, oh, this is really taxing the middle and high income earners. Well, no, it isn't, because they've upped the rate at the lowest income bracket. And they brought PST on things we never used to pay PST on. So now your bookkeeper for your small business, extra 7% automatically. You go to get your shoe repaired, extra 7%. I would repeal the expansion of all those PSTs. And I also want to look at taxes on everyday essentials. I'm going to axe the tax on gas and diesel. That will give us back 44 cents a liter. A liter isn't very much. I think about a liter of milk or cream. It's not very much. And 44 cents of every liter is taxes. We pay the highest gas prices in North America, not just Canada, in North America. Also, I think the NDP government, I will give them this one, in Manitoba has the right idea, and we should take the PST off food, our groceries. So if you reduce the taxes on gas and diesel, and look at our truckers. The truckers are the ones that deliver the food to our grocery stores and goods and services throughout the country. If it's cost them less, they don't pass that along, your grocery bills are going to come down. And then the taxes taken off, your grocery bills will come down. We all need this. Seniors have fixed incomes. They can't keep paying more and more and more when they're not bringing in extra income. We're going to have a kind of questions. So these are practical, real things we can do right away on everyday essentials to make life more affordable. There's a lot that needs to be fixed. There's a lot we need to address, but we can do it if we have leadership, focus, and we know where we're heading. This has to be returned to a province of hope. We have to unleash our natural resources. Our God-given resources should not be lost in the ground. We need to give ourselves the engine of prosperity, and I believe we could be the most prosperous province in the country. We actually could be amazing in Western Canada, allied with other provinces that think like we do. And I've met Scott Moe, I've met Danielle Smith. I see where they're going on a lot of things, and I agree with them. On a very sensitive subject, and I think this is a good place maybe to talk about it, is the issue of children who end up having their gender reassignment surgery. We should not allow this for minors. When you're an adult, you can make your own choices. And that may be a choice you make. But as a child, life-altering, gender-altering surgeries and therapies, I don't agree. Because you're talking about children who cannot sign a contract, who don't have legal capacity to marry without their parents saying so. And we get into parental rights with all of that. We must restore the parental rights, like kids be kids. We've just gone too far. We've gone way too far. And I think that there is a real need and a feeling in British Columbia that we need to turn this ship around, or we're never going to turn it around. And I can tell you, if we don't have a conservative leading the Conservative Party and giving real choices in the next election and being not afraid to go forward and talk like I'm talking now, we're going to lose our province. And we're going to have an NDP government for the next 10, 15 years that takes us even further down the roads we've started on now. We can't afford it. We also can't afford for people, frankly, who don't really know what they're doing to lead the party. And I believe everyone running, I'm sure, has our province and the people who live here in their best interest at heart. But there's too much to do. There's too much urgency to bring in somebody who's never run a business, never been in politics, never articulated the debates you have to have in a legislature, never been tried and tested. And politics is tough, there's no doubt about it. But if you've been there and you've done it, and you've stood firm, and you believe in the values you have, that is what we need. It's not an entry-level job. Do you agree with me? So, with many things I can talk about, happy to answer questions, but at this juncture, I'd just say thank you so much for your time and attention this afternoon. I'm more than happy to have a chance to speak with you, but here we go.
Thank you so much. I
got one right here, that'll take it for the audience.
But you each have one.
Great.
That's okay, we'll do it, we'll share it.
And also, you'll be introducing our special guest
Yeah, I'd
that we
like to
have.
make a few
You can
announcements.
take it away. Go
I'd like
ahead.
to make a few announcements. We're privileged to have with us a gentleman whom I consider to be the province's greatest defender of freedom. Barry Newton, did you He has stood up for rights when others didn't.
Everybody stand, let's go.
He's now been sued, as you know, he's been sued by the Human Rights Commission for $750,000, whereas the normal penalty, if you were guilty, would be probably a few thousand. So this is being appealed now. Be seated, please.
Everyone say thank you, Barry.
I'd like to make a few other comments. First of all, many of you, or us, I too belong to the Federal Conservative Party. That does not give you membership on the provincial. The numbers here are small. I just checked. The numbers, I understand, provincially are still under 7,000. With many candidates, it is possible that a person will win with 20 or 30 or 40 votes more than somebody else. That could be people here today. It is going to be close, likely. There are some candidates, there are 3 top candidates organizing. So I would urge you, if you aren't a member, please sign up, because the numbers are small. As I say, I just heard under 7,000 members. So members will make a difference. Secondly, obviously, even events like this, but other events cost money. So if you want to make a donation, that can be done there as well. I understand, Judy, yeah, you can do that. So now we'll go to questions. Just raise your hand, I'll have questions.
And John, if I can just say, while you're looking for someone, this is where you can come and sign up to be a member, and then in April, they will send you a ballot so you can vote.
Yeah,
They'll
okay,
help
we'll
you do
hear the
that.
question here. Question, speak right in. Speak right in.
What are your solutions regarding persons with disabilities facing hefty clawbacks when seeking employment income, coupled with the issue that PWD disability benefits are not keeping pace with inflation and are $1,000 below the poverty line currently under this BC NDP government?
Yeah, the other thing, of course, you can't take people to court if they injure you in a car accident.
Okay, we got 2 big topics there. But let's just talk about, the first question was about persons with disabilities. I have something to say that you didn't ask me, and then I'll talk about what you asked me. I was on the Justice Committee when we were dealing with MAID. And the federal Liberal government wants to expand MAID to include what they call mature minors, so kids 12 and up. And also to those whose only disability is mental illness. Whereas before, that was based on if you have an irreversible terminal illness and your suffering is great, you might opt for MAID. Now they want to make it not just easily available, but it is being pushed by certain healthcare professionals. We had several people with disabilities testify before us. There is no organization in Canada that advocates for persons with disabilities who agrees with the pushing of this onto people. And we had people in wheelchairs with a good quality of life who would have like an illness like respiratory, say like pneumonia or something, and they're pushing MAID on them. We have veterans who've been told, we'll look after your family, your wife and kids, so you'd be better to end your life. and then I believe in the sanctity of life, and I believe in the dignity of every person, and that is just wrong. So I did want to say that. But the question is really about economics and the fact that disability payments and that are not even keeping up with inflation. And there's not enough advocacy for those persons with disabilities. I agree there isn't, and I agree that this has to change. I also think we have to look more and more at employment opportunities for very bright people who may happen to have a disability to the extent of their capabilities. And as an MP, I always had at least one, sometimes two employees doing part-time work to the level of their abilities in my offices. And that's why. Because the dignity of work, the dignity of being able to earn a paycheck and contribute for yourself and your family means everything, right? Yeah, it just, and then, yeah, okay. One of the policy positions I've taken is that we need to restore tort rights in this province. The NDP tried to take it away 25 years ago when I was on the executive of the Canadian Bar Association. Okay, well, when you are in a motor vehicle accident and you have an injury, you have previously had the right to get a lawyer if you needed one and advocate for proper damages based on your injury. Now, the reason that's important is that the same injury for different people has different effects. If you lose a hand in an accident, not your fault, and you are a carpenter, or you are a dancer, or maybe a seamstress, you need that hand to do what you do, a pianist. If you're a lawyer like me, where we're used to earning our living by talking, whether I have a hand or not, I can learn maybe to write with the other hand, or I can work a computer with the other hand. It's not as big an injury for me as it might be for you. And that's where lawyers, the Trial Lawyers Association and those group of lawyers come in, because they can advocate for damages for your rights that are specific to you and what happened to you. You are a victim of an accident. The NDP before tried to bring in to get rid of that. You just pay everyone the same, basically, and it's more complicated than that. But we fought against it, the trial lawyers, the Canadian Bar, and we won. This time, this new NDP government brought it in all over again and took all your tort rights away. And that's what I mean by tort rights. That is based in British common law that goes back to the beginning of our nation. We're going to repeal that. We're going to bring back those rights so that people who are injured don't get the runaround through a very bureaucratic government overreach system that does not allow individual victims to get their damages. That's what we're going to do. Next question.
Thank you, Carrie Lynn. We need you. We need you. And my question is, you've mentioned many things made, I agree with you. I wonder your policy or stand for the terrible attack on our young people with drugs.
Thank you. We have lost 50,000 Canadians in the last decade to drug overdose. It is not caring or compassionate to leave people out on the street with their severe drug addiction, without treatment and without hope. However, it is also not fair or compassionate to have those people bring chaos and disorder into our neighborhoods and our streets. So we have to do more. I like, frankly, the Alberta model I'm seeing. They're having great success, where they have invested in treatment facilities, beds, that sort of thing, and they have had a lot of success in bringing people back. We need to invest in bringing those of us in our families who are subject to drug addiction. We need, and other addictions. We need to bring them back to a healthy life, a productive life. That is worth investing in, but we have to help them. We shouldn't just leave them out on the street bent over and not knowing where they are. This is not compassion. And I've said this before, and you may agree with me on this, John. The NDP loves to use the language of compassion. But are they actually compassionate? Or are they crushing regular working men and women, and are they leaving people mired like that? And in supported housing, in government-funded housing, I have said, and I'm going to say again at a public meeting on Monday, I do not believe there should be drug use in publicly funded housing, and I don't believe that they should put hardened addicts in the same facilities with vulnerable people, seniors and low income. Why do they not get the dignity of life? They should be in a safe, secure place, and the people who are suffering from addictions should be closer to health care facilities and the help they need. But putting the two together, I think that is absolutely wrong.
To make this comment, I just did a count. There are about 110 people here. We can make a difference in the outcome of this election. The other thing I do want to stress is that we need to keep in mind that we want a leader with experience,
right,
not somebody who sold groceries. That gentleman is excellent at selling groceries. We want somebody with experience. I'll use the MC's opportunity to ask one question. You are not a member in the House. One of the top candidates is. He's using this argument against you, Kerry Lynn. How would you say I should still be leader even if I'm not a member in the House now?
Well, any of you who have been part of leadership races in the past, provincially or federally, or federally, would know that often the leader is not someone who has a current position in the House. It's not necessary at the beginning. It certainly is necessary as you go along, and that is achieved either by going into an election and winning your seat, or by someone. Sometimes they ask people to step aside. I think we're going to have an election sooner than that, and I doubt that I'd be having to ask anyone to step aside. But there are some people who've offered already if I become leader. It's another thing too about, so it's not necessary, because if you know what you're doing, you can lead without a seat in the beginning, knowing where you're going and what you're doing. You can spend some time bringing your caucus together. For 2.5 years, I was the federal whip of the Conservative Party of Canada. We had 3 times the caucus with many divergent people in that caucus, the same grouping that we have provincially. There were libertarians, pro-life, pro-choice, people who said I'm a fiscal conservative and a social liberal, others who were very staunchly in their faith and saw things differently. But you move together by identifying a commonality of purpose. 80% is probably where you need to achieve it. And by having real relationships with each member of your caucus. This isn't a big caucus, it's less than 40 people. You get to know each other and you show respect and professionalism to your colleagues. That's very important, and that brings people together.
Let me add this comment. One of the greatest Prime Ministers of Canada, William Lyon Mackenzie, came for a while, directed the government from the visitors gallery. So it can be done. Bogdan, you have a question.
Yes, my name is Bogdan. I have a comment and question. I will quickly have to say what's going on. Originally, I am from Poland, and Poland, or Polonia for Spanish-speaking people. I ran away from Poland 38 years ago, but in Canada I'm for 35 years ago. Quickly saying, I ran away from communist oppression and control. Now, what I noticed in Canada for last 35 years, that NDP or liberals are nothing else but communists in the other form.
The question, you can have your view, but this meeting does not go on record
But
as
otherwise
communist
they will not
communists.
understand what I'm asking for.
They are not communists, you can disagree with them, give a question, otherwise you
All
can.
right, all right.
No, we do not go on record as calling the NDP and the Liberals communists, I'm sorry about that.
Different form.
They're not communists,
They wanna
they're
control
maybe
the-
socialists, no, I will not stand for that.
Censorship, whatever. maybe
That's
they
quite
want-
different, that's quite different. You're entitled to call them censors, but not communists, as long as I chair a meeting.
Good afternoon, Gary.
Not fair.
My name is Carlos, last name Suarez. I have run for city council in the past, as an MLA for Langley. And I'm thinking to run in October as a school trustee. The question to you is, we have a hero here to have destroy or to have advocate against surgery as a way to indoctrinate children. And we have to keep in mind that anybody at the age of 5 for the 21st, they don't have their full brain developed. So, having that in mind, how are you planning to defeat or get rid of surgery?
That's a question.
Okay, about Soji, and he's thinking of running for school trustee. Listen, in our system, when you're a leader of a party and you become a premier, you have a lot of sway in legislation. And when I talk about repealing Soji, that's exactly what you do. But it's not quite enough. You have to say, and again, it's not in our curriculum, it's in our teachers' resources. You remove that, but you also have to say, we have a new era. We're getting back to learning, we're getting back to grades, we're getting back to making our kids competitive in a competitive world. And therefore, if you insist on bringing that kind of discussion and material into a classroom, then there will be disciplinary action. You can't just say we're taking it out, because they'll still do it. You have to go a little further than that. But if you have the levers of the position of premier, you can absolutely change it. And education in all its forms is provincial jurisdiction, not federal. But if I can just say something about Barrie for a moment. I was a judge on the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal for 5 years. I sat on human rights cases. Human rights, the defense of human rights, the dignity of every person is extremely important. And if you have been discriminated against because maybe your race and someone says, I don't want to rent to you, or you don't get a promotion because they say you're too old, or you're too, you have a disability they don't agree with, you have a right to go before a human rights tribunal. The problem is, here in BC, this BC Human Rights Tribunal is a tribunal of first application, meaning there is no commission in between that looks at these things. You go straight into that. And the chair of it was appointed by the BC Liberal government, renewed by the BC NDP government, and they have weaponized that tribunal to say to any person, for any reason, that the penalty will be $750,000, which is a life-ruining and life-altering decision, is just wrong. Secondly, who is that money supposed to be paid to? If I read the decision right, Barrie, it was that he's supposed to pay that money, and then they are going to distribute it to the members of the Chilliwack Teachers Federation for loss to their dignity.
Oh, yeah.
Really? Really? No, that cannot stand. But yeah, you're right to laugh. This is so absurd. So, you know, what's happened to this brave soul who probably didn't think he was being brave, he's just being true to his convictions. And this is where conservatism counts. I am a conservatism by conviction, not convenience. And there.
I'm from Hong Kong. I concur with the person that asked that question. There are things that we're seeing in Canada was exactly what happened after 2009. But my question is, the second part of the question I asked you 2 weeks ago, How are we going to face the challenge of the federal government challenging the office? And of course, that's the first part. Second part, how all the things that were talked about is related to the impartiality of traditional political trust. Is there a way that we can fix it to check it out?
Well, the best way to fix it is to elect a conservative leader of the Conservative Party of BC and then have us win the next election with your vote and your help and your support. That is how you change it, because in our system, I can't just stand here like I am tonight and fix it and change it. I need the levers of power to do that. But that is possible in our system. I think it's very relevant what Bogdan said and what you said. These are people who have seen freedom eroded. They've been part of countries where they watched it happen. And then they had to try and fight to get out from under. Some of the most courageous and greatest defenders of free speech, of freedom of assembly, of freedom generally, are people who've lived in those regimes and they understand what it can do. Us as Canadians, we tend to be passive, peaceable, peace-loving people, and we don't want to believe that the people around us actually are going to do us ill. We want to believe that, everyone wants kind of the same thing, but it's not true. There are people around us who just want power and influence, and they will do what it takes to get it, and then they will go into government overreach. Can I just say one thing, John? Bill 36 comes into effect April 1st. Going to be followed by Bill 21. They are taking away our self-governing professions. They're taking away what we have always understood as our College of Physicians and Surgeons and our Law Society. All our healthcare professionals, our doctors, our nurses, our occupational therapists, our speech pathologists, everyone in the healthcare field is now going to be controlled directly by government, not by a self-regulating body. And lawyers like me, they're not only wanting to change over to their appointees being the benchers, in other words, looking over admission to the bar and discipline, they want to put a commission of Indigenous elders over the top of that, who are not necessarily lawyers and don't know the profession. This is government overreach, it is government control, and we're heading in the wrong direction with all of that. I'm sorry, if you haven't had a question.
Thank you, Richard.
Yes, thank you for being here. Could you give us your view on what happened to John Rustad and how would you avoid that happening to you?
That's a tough question. Maybe you don't want to answer it. You
Well,
can answer the second part.
I don't know all the details, but I'll say this. John is deserving of a lot of respect. John has been a member of the legislature for 21 years. He has served British Columbians well. He was part of the sort of renewing and rebirth of this party, and I think he should always be regarded well and have a place in that party and in some form of leadership. Having said that, I don't know what all happened, and what I know is how we move forward. And moving forward from that is showing respect to our colleagues, including, there's some who've left, and I think there is hope for them in some form or another to come back into the fold. But what they're telling me is they want a conservative to win this race. And if a conservative does not win it, they're really not interested. If a conservative wins it, they are interested. So it's part of making that big tent and having the commonality of purpose as a government and waiting to take on the NDP and win.
Well, thank you. Will, any other hand now? I'll ask. Here's a question.
Hi there. My daughter was pregnant last year, could not get a doctor. She was interviewed by a doctor. The doctor's office called her and said, "You're not a fit for our office because she's not vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccine." So
Just last year?
This was last year. She was pregnant couldn't find a midwife, couldn't get a doctor. She ended up delivering the baby on the kitchen floor at home.
That's unbelievable. Your question is in there.
I still have, so my question is, she's still young enough to have another child. How is she gonna get a doctor if she still didn't get a doctor after going to the hospital with the delivery of this last baby, which was last year in September? How is she gonna get a doctor?
Which hospital?
Kelowna.
Kelowna Hospital.
Well, first of all, I'm against any mandates when it comes to vaccination.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's government overreach and it's government taking something as personal as our personal bodily autonomy and saying, you know what, who's in your bubble and who's close enough to you, and we'll decide who you have over for Christmas dinner, and we're going to tell you that you can't go on a train or a plane or a bus. At the time all that came in, federally, I was running for office federally, and I was told that my job, which was 4,600 kilometers away, and I had to travel every Sunday and come back every Thursday night so I could be home in my community on weekends. I didn't stay there, I always came home. That I couldn't get in a plane or on a train or take a bus to get back there. And if I had driven the 5.5 days to get back there, I wouldn't have had time to, it was impossible, right? And I had the 2 vaccinations. I've never had a booster. And I did it because I could not do my job, and I was out there like so many people who didn't want to have it but did it because of their job. And then I had the indignity, as far as I was concerned, of Prime Minister Trudeau saying, I didn't force anyone to have it, I don't know what you're talking about. We were banned from Parliament if we didn't have vaccination. They had your picture on a list, like you were in the 100 most wanted or something, where you were stopped from walking into the building. Yes, they forced people. They forced people all over the place. Look at our nurses. When nurses were not allowed to nurse because they didn't get vaccinated, then a couple years later, Bonnie Henry and this government lied and said, you can come back to work. And then in the small print it said, as long as your vaccinations are up to date. I had nurses coming up to me crying with paperwork like this saying, I want to work, I'm qualified to work, they won't let me work. This is ideology again gone mad. As far as right now, when you do not have to, we're not in this lockdown, we're not in mandates, and I hope that this never happens to any of us again. There is no medical or compassionate reason why a pregnant woman should be turned away from any healthcare facility for that reason. And if it takes legislation, then we'll do it. That's absurd.
I'd like to do a follow-up of what you talked about in healthcare. In my research, I came across this data. Germany has 1/5 as many administrators in their healthcare system as British Columbia. And by the way, there's almost no waiting time. So my question to you, Carrie-Lynn, is how can you eliminate people who have these appointments in administration?
Well, by winning the election, that's how we do it. You do have a say, if you are premier, over who your bureaucracy is, whether it's in government, as deputy ministers, associate deputy ministers, assistant associate deputy ministers, et cetera, you do have a say. Also, you can revamp. Our health authority system needs a real overhaul. My daughter with breast cancer, who lives in North Vancouver, needed a surgeon for reconstruction after her double mastectomy. There was no doctor on the North Shore who did that particular surgery. So she asked for a consultation in Vancouver. They said, oh, that's a different health authority. You're not allowed to come here. Yeah, but there is no one in my health authority who does that. So they said, oh, you're gonna have to go somewhere else. Eventually, she found a doctor, a microsurgeon, an excellent young doctor at Surrey Memorial, who also has a sort of, I don't know what it is, but like an office of his own alongside the hospital. And he agreed to take her on, but he had to go through all sorts of hoops, and she had to wait over a year more, because now that's another health authority. Like, this should be about patient care and needs. She had to go to Victoria to get a PET scan to find out if she had more cancer, because the one PET scan at VGH was booked up for 3 months. And if they'd waited 3 months, it would have been too late if it was rampant. This is unacceptable. And this is why people are going to other countries for their health care and their surgeries. This is Canada. We should be proud of Canada. We should be proud of our province. And I believe we can make this province prosperous again. I believe we can give hope and renewal to our province, but we need leadership, we need focus, and we need to be doing right by the working men and women and the children and the seniors. We need to look after British Columbians. I think that that's wrong. We're sort of on other.
We'll take one more question if there is one. Barry, yes.
Barry, I've been involved in public education for 30 years, and I've lost a lot of faith in it. It's not just SOGI that's the problem. There's diversity, inclusion, and equity, and their anti-colonialism, and there's nothing that children's health is a problem. The public is not being allowed to have any say at school board meetings. They're getting kicked out. My suggestion is that we need another Royal Commission on public education. The last time we had one was 1988. Would you be committed to some kind of a commission to travel around the province with town hall meetings and find out what people really want?
Well, what we're talking about is power to the people, right? We need to give the power back to the people. Government should be the servant. The people should be the masters. And right now we have a government that says, you work for us. No. The government is supposed to work for the people, not the other way around. We have to change that, and I believe by going around the province, talking to people in the industries. If you want to fix forestry, talk to a guy who's been in the pulp mill for 36 years. They know the industry, they know what needs to be fixed, they know we're not processing like we used to, and we send offshore for all of that, and then buy our lumber back at world prices. They know we're not refining our own oil. We send it down to Cherry Point, and then they sell it back to us at world prices. This is insanity. Education, resources, healthcare. We need to talk to the people who know what they're talking about and show them respect. With that, I really have to get going, folks. I really appreciate your time and attention here today.
The lady has some more.
Well, I know, I'm sure there's lots of questions, but I really do have to get on my way because I'm expected in merit, so I have to get going. But just one sec, I just sincerely want to thank you for listening. I hope there may be other chances when I'm out this way to chat with you. Please go to finleyforbc.ca, that's 4 with that number, and look there for memberships or course donations if you can. But we're in an affordability crisis, I understand that. We need to turn that around. So I'm honored to be with you today. Thank you.
Just one question. I understand that if you want to vote for leadership in the Conservative Party, you have to be a member by April 18, isn't that right?
That's exactly
By
right.
April 18. So if you can't sign up today, do it. Contact me or somebody. If you can go online, let's give the lady a round of applause. Thank you.